Hi everyone, welcome to Narain's Life with MS. This is Narain and it's time for a Treatment Tuesday. Now, before I start with this Treatment Tuesday, for this week and next week, I will actually cover some of the more recent treatments that I am undergoing, and actually, these are current. So current, in fact, that the treatment that I'm going to talk about today and the treatment I'm going to talk about next week happen pretty much on a weekly basis. So with that said, today's treatment is actually something that started prior to what I will talk about next week. So with all that said, let's get started. So the treatment I want to talk about today, and I know this will definitely come off as something that is a little bit more controversial than some of the other treatments that I've had. And that is homeopathy. And alongside that, I also do have acupuncture, right? So, homeopathy and acupuncture. Why don't I start by giving you a quick, a quick breakdown of how I got started with this. So this started, I want to say, 2023, maybe 4. I mean, I think it was 2023. And the reason I say that is because I was at that point in time also doing magnetotherapy. So I remember that, I would actually go to the therapist, get acupuncture, and alongside this acupuncture, there used to also be small electrical impulses that were provided because I would actually wonder if me putting magnets on my fingers um, you know at the end of the day, and then of course having a small session of electrotherapy alongside the acupuncture, if it would compound the effects, the impacts of this treatment. I don't recall there being as big a connection between these two, but definitely I would say that acupuncture, for one thing, I know that it has proven to be beneficial. And as for homeopathy, the thing with homeopathic medicines is a lot of times people definitely do question that how is it possible that something that is diluted to such a large extent, right? Such a large extent that the concentration of it just almost disappears. How is it supposed to be effective? But one thing I can definitely tell you is you can definitely taste the medicine in homeopathic medications. And considering that homeopathic medications or homeopathy um, is definitely one of the newer forms of alternative therapies that you know uh, were founded more recently than something that was a little more um, herbal, or a little more grounded in nature or natural therapies like Ayurveda or Chinese medicine. As a result of that, there are a lot of people that say it does not really work out, or maybe it's just the placebo effect. But one thing I can definitely say is that whatever medication I take on a homeopathic level, they are for very specific symptoms that I face. And as a result, when I am comparing you know two separate, like when I'm considering the passage of time, usually one thing that I do find is that even if homeopathic medication can't improve a certain symptom, it definitely does arrest its development. And this I can say because and of course, in terms of improvement, I definitely have noticed quite a bit of improvement since starting it over 2 years back, right? We are talking, me taking medication for 2 years. And one thing I know is that when I do pause the treatment, because, I'm not, I mean, as disciplined as I want to be, there are times when, I just don't have the medications. Um, I do tend to notice that certain things do end up coming, right? And as with any type of treatment that is out there, right, um, be it scientific, non-scientific, traditional or modern, um, you know uh, there is technically no cure for MS. So as a result, the only thing you can really do is pretty much treat the condition as much as possible. And um, one thing I definitely want to say about homeopathic treatment is, there have been certain things that I have definitely um, realized have happened. Now it might be more of a placebo effect. It might be a little something that is more akin to, something that is happening as a result of, um, you know as a result of me believing in the treatment. But I can give you two examples, and you can decide for yourself how effective it is. Now, considering I am, there are a lot of different things that I do talk about, that I do get treated for. So I do have a lot of medication with me. One thing I do want to mention is, these two things. One is definitely a little more related to me having MS. The other one is not so much related to MS, but it is something that I faced. And after having the medication, I did notice an improvement. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and that is actually a little more related to MS, and that is, actually having brain fog, right? To the extent that I would forget what I was talking about while talking about it. So as a result, I would talk very, very quickly, right? A lot of times I would even swallow my words. So I would, you know, sometimes I would say I engineer, right? Rather than saying I am an engineer, right? I would say something like that. Just because I realize that, if I don't say what is on my mind right now, I will definitely forget it within the next 5 seconds. So as a result, I would be talking a lot faster. I would constantly keep changing what I was talking about. Now that I do understand, I still have that. But one thing that I definitely noticed with with the medication I was given, with the therapy I was given, was that I actually improved on the brain fog aspect. I definitely uh, became a little easier for me to talk slowly, to actually think about what I was saying before I said it, and actually remember certain things that I was actually saying. So that was definitely an improvement I noticed. And this I definitely think this was more in line with something that might have happened as a result of you know maybe something MS related. Now, going to something that is not so MS related, it was that I had a corn on the sole of my foot. And it and again, it was my left foot, so maybe it is a little MS related. But with this corn, Normally there is a certain part of my foot that always, especially my left foot, that always develop corns from time to time. And I actually got medication, homeopathic medication, that would uh, that was supposed to at least lower or make the corn smaller. And it lo and behold, it actually ended up reducing the size of the corn. And it got so small to the point where I could actually put a corn cap on, which honestly, when I look at the number of times I have had corns on my left foot, they have been huge. I mean, I remember there was one that I actually had to get cautered off my foot. Definitely not going to take one of these episodes to explain what that experience felt like. But one thing I definitely want to say is that when they kind of burnt my skin off, I smelled delicious. Right, that is definitely one thing that I wanted to say, because it kind of smells like the crispy skin, right, on like fried chicken or any other meat. And knowing that my skin smell, like when it was electrocuted and like burnt, smelled like that, I was just like, wow, I would be delicious. And knowing that I probably have quite a bit of fat content in me, I realized that I would make a really good dinner for a certain predator, right? If we did cross paths. But with that being said, yes, so it definitely did reduce the size of my corn, and it got so small to the point where I was able to put a corn cap on for, I want to say, just about a day or 2 days, and the corn pretty much came off, and now I am corn free for a very long time. And considering that the first time I experienced a corn as a result of falling or walking or just being a little odd with my footwear was back in 2016. And that was the one that I actually got cautered off, I want to say 6 months later. um, After trying and failing different things like salicylic acid and all of that, just because the corn was pretty big, it was pretty deep as well. um, you know I definitely knew that a corn on the bottom of my foot was definitely a necessary evil that I would experience for a very long time. So those are just two instances of where I actually did find a little positive. I had a positive experience with homeopathic treatment, and of course, alongside the homeopathic treatment, I do also get, acupuncture, and with the acupuncture, there is a little bit of electrotherapy involved. So there are, you know, little small electrodes put in, you know, alongside some of the needles that are in me, and I can feel a small electric pulse going in and out. um, with this acupuncture, I do want to say that it's definitely not as painful as the second acupuncture treatment, but considering that you do not get the same, um, you don't get needles as thin over here as you probably do maybe in other places outside India. As a result, you do feel the you do feel when the needle sort of gets jabbed into you, right, gets poked into you. So you do feel the poke, but you don't normally feel the pain after that. So that is one thing that I did want to share about you know a treatment that I'm currently undergoing. So that is, of course, homeopathy alongside acupuncture. And of course, this therapist that I do end up going to, a few times a week, um, is a highly valued therapist. And they she has definitely, does not only have, you know different degrees in doing homeopathy and all of these things, but she is also nutritionist. So a lot of times I do also get certain tips on nutrition, and you know trying to make sure that I'm eating all of the healthy stuff, albeit maybe having too much of the healthy stuff, right? At least knowing from my size. So that pretty much covers one of the current treatments that I'm undergoing, which is, of course, homeopathy alongside acupuncture. Do share your comments, do share your thoughts, your experiences, your insights on what you think about this treatment, and what your and if you've had any experiences, do share those experiences so that we can get the conversation started. And with that said, this has been Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain, and I would be very happy to definitely discuss anything you have in relation to any alternative therapies that you might have encountered, aside from anything or everything that I have experienced in the last x number of years. So, with that said, I do want to wish you a good night. I hope you have sweet dreams. And of course, I hope your week started off very well. And I hope that you're all excited, considering tomorrow is Wednesday. And after that, of course, there is a slow downhill roll all the way to the weekend. With that said, here's wishing you a goodbye, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.